Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be digging deep into a single, really concentrated text, Psalm 128. We're using the extensive commentary and all the source analysis provided by the You Need Faith in Jesus team.
That's right. And it's a psalm that, it's pretty short. People might just skim past it.
Exactly. But what the sources show is that it contains this complete practical blueprint for a life of profound stability and real contentment.
A life of favor. Our mission today is to really unpack that ancient map verse by verse and see how it all connects from your work to your home to your entire community.
And the materials present this psalm, Psalm 128, not as like a vague suggestion, but as a real framework for achieving what they call shalom.
Yes, shalom. And we should probably define that up front. It goes so far beyond just personal peace. It's about a deep structural integrity in your life, a flourishing that's completely rooted in divine alignment.
So we're going to be extracting that core wisdom using the You Need Faith in Jesus team materials as our guide.
Verse by verse, showing how that submission to God is supposed to directly yield this desired state of being.
Okay, so to get started, we really need to understand the context. This psalm is labeled as one of the songs of ascents. Now, that sounds kind of formal, but understanding that label is, well, it's foundational, isn't it?
Oh, it's the key. It is absolutely the key to understanding the intent here. The songs of ascents they were traditionally sung by Jewish pilgrims.
Pilgrims who were traveling where?
They were traveling uphill to Jerusalem for the major annual feasts, Passover, Pentecost, Tabernacles. This wasn't just a quick day trip, it was a journey.
Right. Physically arduous, I'd imagine. Deeply spiritual.
Exactly. So by the time they reached Jerusalem, they had ascended. Both physically, climbing the hills, and symbolically. They were moving toward the very presence of God.
So if this is a song they're singing on the road, on the journey, the content must be something they needed to really internalize for the journey of faith itself.
That's it. It's not some side note advice. It's essential instruction.
It's the core stuff.
It is. The You Need Faith in Jesus team notes really point out that this context suggests the psalm is foundational teaching. It's a statement of how a person who is truly seeking and submitting to God will be blessed, and not in some, abstract theological way.
Right. Not someday in heaven, but right now.
Right now, in the tangible, everyday parts of life. Their home, their work, their city.
And that immediately connects this ancient text to our lives today. I mean, our lives are filled with their own uphill climbs, right? The stress of a career, the challenges we face, the difficulty of raising a family in this kind of chaotic world.
It's all an ascent.
So if this is the marching song for that kind of ascent, we need to know where the path begins. So let's jump right into that first verse. It lays down what you could call the non-negotiable prerequisites.
It does. It starts with this incredibly powerful declaration.
Introducing two conditions you absolutely need to access this promised flourishing.
And it's a cause and effect relationship right from the start. Happiness isn't an accident. It's a result of intentional choice. I'll read the verse. It's Psalm 128.1. Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways.
Okay, let's unpack that. That word blessed. In Scripture, especially here, it means something so much deeper than just, a fleeting good mood.
Oh, much deeper. The commentary we have defines it as a state of deep, settled contentment and divine favor.
So how is that different from, say, just general philosophical ideas of happiness?
That's a crucial distinction. When you look at, say, Greek philosophy, they talk about eudaimonia, which is often translated as flourishing, but that's usually seen as something you achieve yourself through virtue and reason.
Right. Self-generated excellence.
Exactly. The biblical concept of being blessed, or ashrei in the Hebrew, it definitely involves that internal flourishing, but its origin is external, it's relational, it's a declaration of divine favor. It basically means you are rightly aligned with the source of all life, and because of that, you flourish.
And the verse says this state is available to everyone.
Everyone.
That's huge. It suggests the blessing isn't restricted by your race, your gender, your social status, how much money you have. It's purely conditional.
Absolutely. The universal everyone is a powerful democratization of blessing. It stresses that true flourishing is not a stroke of luck. It's not a genetic thing. It's the result of a submitted life. The You Need Faith in Jesus team commentary really emphasizes that the two criteria, fearing and walking, are the great levelers. If you meet them, the blessing is assured.
Okay, so let's tackle that first condition then, fearing the Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, in our modern language, the word fear is almost always negative. It means terror, avoidance. This phrase can really trip people up.
It does, and we have to clarify it right away based on the source materials. This fear is emphatically not cowering terror. It's a profound reverential awe. Awe. It's acknowledging God's absolute power, his flawless holiness, his ultimate authority, and then responding to that with deep, deep respect. It's recognizing he's the creator, the sustainer, the judge, and our well-being is completely dependent on our relationship with him.
I've heard an analogy used of a skilled sailor and the ocean. The sailor doesn't cower in terror before the sea, but he approaches it with this profound respect and caution, because he knows his life depends on honoring his power. Is that the right way to see it? A healthy respect.
That is precisely the constructive interpretation offered by the You Need Faith in Jesus team. This fear is a love-driven reverence, and it's what motivates obedience. You recognize his way is just inherently better than ours. And if that foundational attitude is in place, it has to lead to the second condition.
Which is that walketh in his ways.
Yeah.
So if the reverence is the internal attitude, this has to be the external lifestyle, the part people can actually see.
It's the practical manifestation, absolutely. The word walketh implies a continuous journey, right? A persistent direction, not just a one-time thing. To walk in his ways means our respect for God translates into actively, continually choosing to live according to the instructions he's given us in his word.
So aligning your daily path, your actions, how you handle your money, your relationships, all of it.
All of it with the divine blueprint.
So the two conditions are completely linked. The fear of the Lord gives you the desire to walk in his ways, and walking in his ways is the proof that the fear is authentic.
They're two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other.
But let me push on this a little, because this is a sticking point for a lot of people. If true blessing is rooted in obedience, like this psalm promises, how do the source materials deal with the fact that many deeply obedient people still experience lack or failure or suffering?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And the commentary addresses it by emphasizing the nature of the blessing. Psalm 128 is promising shalom, that structural integrity and contented flourishing. It's not a guarantee against all external misfortune.
So it's more about resilience.
Exactly. The You Need Faith in Jesus team materials define the blessing here as resilience, dignity, and an internal satisfaction despite external pressures. The obedient person might face the same drought as the disobedient person.
Sure.
But they will maintain their dignity, their faith, their hope. And that is the deeper blessing.
That completely shifts the definition of success from just external prosperity to internal relational flourishing. And this focus on fearing and walking, it's not some new rule the psalmist came up with, right? This is a constant theme.
It is absolutely constant. The sources connect this teaching directly back to the core law given hundreds of years earlier. It shows how timeless it is. Here it is from Deuteronomy 10:12. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Wow. That is remarkable continuity. After all that history, all the covenants, the wandering, God's core requirement is fundamentally simple. Fear, walk, love, serve. It's all about the heart and the path that results from it.
And this is where the You Need Faith in Jesus team commentary really offers a powerful challenge to us today. I mean, we're just conditioned to believe that contentment is found in pursuing our own desires.
The path of self-actualization.
Exactly. And this ancient text just redirects us completely. It says lasting contentment is a byproduct. It's a result of putting God first and aligning our attitudes and actions with his word. It's a choice. It's submission. That's the non-negotiable first step.
So if you want the destination of blessing, you have to choose the pathway of reverence and obedience first.
You have to. And if you do, the psalm immediately promises practical fruit right in the very next verse.
Right. We shift from the internal condition of the heart to the first external observable outcome, satisfaction in our work.
Yes, this is where it gets very practical.
This is where the submission of verse 1 finds its first tangible expression. The promises here are about our economic security and the dignity of our labor. The verse is Psalm 128.2, "For thou shalt eat the labor of thine hands. Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee."
Okay, we need to spend some time on that first phrase, "Thou shalt eat the labor of thine hands." To someone in an ancient agricultural society, what did that mean?
It meant everything. It meant survival, control, peace. I mean, back then, the biggest threats weren't just a bad quarter at work. They were drought, pests, and maybe even more political and military threats.
Right, invading armies.
Exactly. So for a farmer to plant, tend, harvest, and then, most importantly, eat the produce of his own land, That meant a ton of things had to go right. There was rain, the ground was fertile, and critically, no invading army or greedy king had swept through to just take the harvest.
So it's the simple but profound gift of security. The blessing isn't about maximizing your profit margin. It's about being able to enjoy the results of your own honest work.
It's the joy of seeing tangible results from your diligence and integrity. It really speaks to restoring dignity to work itself.
It does, and the commentary notes that God designed work, even after the fall, to still be a source of dignity. The blessing here is that the obedient person will be satisfied in their work, not necessarily wealthy from it.
How do sources distinguish between that wealth and this promised provision? Because that's a key difference.
It's a crucial one. Wealth is usually about external accumulation, about scale. Provision, as is promised here, is about sufficiency and satisfaction. The promise isn't that you'll never have a financial downturn. It's the assurance that you will always be provided for, and, critically, you will have the ability to rejoice in what you have.
That internal contentment.
Yes, that's what transforms simple provision into true abundance.
And that connection between having the provision and actually being able to enjoy it, that's backed up elsewhere in Scripture, right? It emphasizes that the satisfaction itself is a gift.
It is. The You Need Faith in Jesus team materials cite the wisdom literature on this to reinforce that enjoying our work is itself a grace-filled gift from God. It's separate from just earning the money. Here's the verse, Ecclesiastes 5:19. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor. This is the gift of God.
Power to eat thereof. That changes everything, especially for our modern economy. I mean, you can work yourself to the bone, achieve huge financial success, but if you lack that power to eat thereof, if you're too stressed, too burnt out, too dissatisfied to actually enjoy it,
then you haven't received the full blessing promised here. Only God grants the ability to truly rejoice in the labor.
that is the paradox that obedience is meant to solve. A lot of the anxiety and dissatisfaction in professional life today comes from seeing work as just means of self-achievement.
And when you shift your perspective, when you recognize that your ability to provide for your family and find satisfaction in your diligence is a spiritual gift, the whole nature of the work changes. You move from striving for self-validation to receiving provision through grace.
So let's get practical. For the listener who is struggling with burnout or feels disconnected from their job, how do we apply this ancient promise today?
The commentary suggests two immediate actions. First, you're called to diligence and integrity no matter what the job is. If you're walking in his ways, you bring reverence and excellence to it.
Even if it's a job you don't love.
Even then. And second, you practice radical gratitude for the simple provision. You recognize that the ability to pay the bills, to feed your family, to keep your dignity through honest work, that is a concrete expression of God's goodness. That's a point the You Need Faith in Jesus team really highlights.
So you shift the question from, what is my job failing to give me, to how is God faithfully providing for me through this work?
It's a transformative shift from a transactional view to a spiritual stewardship view.
Okay, so if that section addresses stability in our external labor, the next one moves the divine order inward to the most intimate area of life, the family.
Yes, into the home.
And this verse is one of the most vividly metaphorical in the whole psalm. It uses this beautiful natural imagery. It's Psalm 128.3. Thy wife shall be as a fruitful vine by the sides of thine house, thy children like olive plants round about thy table.
This is the second major arena where that fear of the Lord shows up as favor. Let's break down the imagery, starting with the wife as a fruitful vine. In the ancient world, a vine meant joy, beauty, abundance. It was the source of celebration.
I'm really struck by the placement, though, by the sides of thine house. It suggests she's integral, but not the main support pillar. How does the source material talk about that difference?
That's a great observation. The analysis highlights that the vine growing by the sides suggests security and integration. She isn't outside, exposed to everything, nor is she bearing the entire structural load of the house.
Right.
Instead, she's flourishing within the security of the household, bringing beauty and fruitfulness and life to the domestic sphere. And fruitful doesn't just mean having children. It means producing a constant harvest of joy and spiritual health in the home.
A picture of mutual security and vitality. And then it moves to the children, who are compared to olive plants. This feels different. It shifts from the immediate joy of the vine to something about long-term value.
The olive plant imagery is incredibly potent. Olive trees were symbols of health, economic value, and, critically, longevity. They're slow to mature. They take years of patience and investment.
But once they're established,
They can produce for centuries. They become a generational asset. They promise a vibrant, long-term future.
so having these young, valuable olive shoots around the family table, the place of community and instruction, is this powerful visual of a secure, enduring legacy.
It connects directly to the need for parental commitment. Raising godly children, the sources imply, is like cultivating an olive grove. It takes generational commitment, consistent care. It shows that the family unit is a primary place where God's favor is deeply experienced.
And the wisdom literature constantly confirms this, doesn't it? That a stable, righteous spouse is a mark of God's favor.
It does. The commentary links this domestic picture right back to Proverbs, framing the spouse as a tangible spiritual reward. It's not just a lucky match, it's something obtained from the divine source.
Right, here it is. Proverbs 18.22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord.
So it elevates finding a spouse who is integral to the home far beyond luck. It's a direct expression of the favor promised to the one who fears the Lord. The blessed life is tied to the health of the home.
Which brings us to the application for the listener, which the You Need Faith in Jesus team strongly emphasizes. We're called to actively cherish the family as one of God's greatest gifts.
Prioritizing them over fleeting external things.
And for the listener who is raising children in this complex, distraction-filled world, what does that olive plant analogy suggest for them?
It demands a huge shift in perspective. We have to view our children not as interruptions to our own career or self-pursuit, but as these precious long-term investments. They're the inheritors of the covenant.
And the action required.
The action is to actively nurture them in the ways of the Lord, to dedicate the time and the spiritual focus to cultivating a home of security, joy, and growth. That cultivation, which leads to spiritual maturity and endurance, is a key action point from the source materials. We are responsible for the environment where these olive plants can grow strong.
Okay, so we have the foundation of fear and obedience in verse 1, external life secured in verse 2, the home flourishing in verse 3. And now the psalm pivots in verse 4. It acts as this powerful confirmation of the whole structure.
It does. Verse 4 is the structural high point. It moves from poetic description to declarative certainty. The psalmist wants to remove any doubt about how these blessings happen. It says, Psalm 128.4, Behold, that thus shall the man be blessed that feareth the Lord.
That word behold, it always commands attention. It's like a spotlight. What kind of power does that word carry here?
It's a call to immediate, urgent attention. It's a rhetorical flourish that says, stop, grasp the importance of this principle. The commentary calls it the exclamation point of the psalm. It's saying, look, see the pattern.
The satisfying work, the harmonious home, these things aren't accidents.
They are the precise result, the inevitable output of the fear of the Lord. It confirms that cause and effect relationship. It's not coincidence, it's a covenant consequence.
And that certainty is woven throughout the wisdom tradition.
It is. The promise is structurally reliable. The source materials cite another firm promise that reinforces this guarantee, from Psalm 34.9. Oh, fear the Lord, ye his saints, for there is no want to them that fear him.
There is no want. That is an incredibly strong phrase. We need to define want in this context. It's not promising you'll get every single material thing you desire, is it?
Absolutely not. The analysis clarifies that want here means a deep spiritual or essential lack, the absence of something necessary for life and dignity. The promise isn't a life of opulence. It's a life free from essential lack, because God himself is the one ensuring the provision.
So the faithful will lack nothing essential for their life and flourishing within God's care. But again, what about those moments when the listener, who is trying to walk in his ways, still feels a substantial lack or goes through deep financial distress? How does no want apply then?
And that's where the power of the promise shifts from an immediate guarantee to a long-term perspective supported by faith. The You Need Faith in Jesus team commentary stresses that even in hardship, the obedient person still has the deeper blessing. The contentment of soul, the dignity of labor, the spiritual security of the home.
So the foundation isn't shaken.
The foundation isn't shaken, and the promise is that the essential needs will be met, even if not on the timeline we might wish.
So the practical application is endurance. It's unwavering trust in the structure of this promise.
The required action is a persistent belief. Our commitment to honor God through reverence and obedience is never in vain. This is the bedrock upon which God builds a lasting, resilient blessing. The result is for his glory to be seen through a life that thrives even when circumstances are tough.
This seems like a complete picture of a blessed life. You're secure in your soul, stable in your work, flourishing in your home. But the psalm doesn't stop there, does it?
No, it widens the scope dramatically.
Verses 5 and 6 take the blessing beyond the individual or the family and expand it to the entire community and even the nation's long-term legacy.
And this expansion is a key insight. It shows that the fear of the Lord is not a private pursuit. It has inherent public implications.
Okay, here's the verse. Psalm 128.5. The Lord shall bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life.
We have to start with the source of the blessing out of Zion. That's a specific reference to the temple in Jerusalem, God's dwelling place. So it confirms the blessing originates with God himself. It flows directly from his presence.
And the recipient of this blessing sees the good of Jerusalem. This is so much bigger than just personal prosperity. This is about civic health, national security.
Public well-being. It encompasses the peace, justice, and prosperity of the entire city. And the implication is profound. The godly individual, the one who fears the Lord, doesn't just benefit themselves. Their alignment with God becomes a stabilizing, beneficial force for their whole society.
A positive ripple effect.
Exactly. Their righteousness promotes integrity and contributes to the overall shalom of the community.
That runs completely counter to the idea that faith is just an internal self-help thing. This suggests your choice to obey God actively contributes to the structural integrity of your city. How does that work today?
The source materials connect personal integrity to public stability. For example, a person who fears the Lord brings honesty to their business. They don't engage in corruption. They practice fair dealings. That strengthens the local economy.
A family that raises disciplined, compassionate children reduces crime and social instability.
Exactly. The fear of the Lord creates virtuous citizens whose behavior benefits everyone, whether they're godly or not. That is how the righteous person contributes to the good of Jerusalem.
And the sources connect this obligation to an even more challenging scenario, don't they? When God's people were living as exiles.
It shows the consistent responsibility God places on his people toward their environment, even a hostile one. It shows they're called to be agents of peace wherever they are. Here's Jeremiah 29.7. And seek the peace of the city whither I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto the Lord for it. For in the peace thereof shall ye have peace.
That's a mandate for civic responsibility. Even in exile, their well-being was tied to the well-being of the city they lived in. And Psalm 128 shows the positive side of that. When the godlies are blessed, they become the foundation for the peace of their community.
This is a vital lesson for us, and the You Need Faith in Jesus team really emphasizes this. Our faith must never be a contained, private affair. God blesses us so that we can be a conduit of blessing to the community around us.
So the practical application shifts from just internal discipline to external civic responsibility. What specific actions does the commentary suggest for seeking the good of Jerusalem in a modern city?
It involves several things. First, recognizing our individual flourishing is linked to the collective flourishing. Second, actively praying for our towns, our cities, our nation. And third, and most concretely, living in a way through ethical business, volunteering, political integrity, acts of kindness that positively impacts the whole society. We're called to reflect the peace and goodness of God in the public square.
So if the pilgrim singing this was hoping to see the security of Jerusalem in their lifetime, verse 6 takes that hope and stretches it across generations to the highest form of peace.
This is the final, deepest layer of blessing. It links the individual's faithful life to the corporate destiny of the entire faith community.
And the verse is Psalm 128.6. Yea, thou shalt see thy children's children, and peace upon Israel.
That first phrase, thou shalt see thy children's children, speaks directly to longevity. And in that historical context, that was a tremendous marker of God's favor.
The epitome of a fulfilled life.
Absolutely. To live long enough to see your grandchildren was proof of divine grace and vitality. But the spiritual meaning is even deeper. It signifies the successful, enduring continuation of the family line, and, most importantly, the successful transfer of that reverence, that walk in his ways, to the next generation and the one after that.
It's the ultimate expression of the olive plants, from verse 3, maturing and producing their own shoots.
Exactly. The legacy of faith has taken root. The obedient life is rewarded with enduring lineage. And this personal legacy is immediately coupled with the ultimate corporate hope and peace upon Israel.
Let's spend a moment on that. This is the Hebrew concept of shalom at its highest. What are the essential components?
Shalom is comprehensive. It's not just the absence of war, it's the presence of holistic wholeness. The sources define it as security, health, prosperity, right relationships, and structural justice for the entire community of faith. It means everything is exactly as it should be, perfectly aligned with God's design.
So the blessed life culminates in seeing God's goodness extend through your family's generations and witnessing the corporate blessing of the spiritual community achieving that wholeness.
It connects the individual's commitment directly to the eternal hope. And the commentary draws this link explicitly. The personal longevity is a taste of the corporate endurance God promises. Here it is in Isaiah 66:22. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain.
Wow.
So seeing your grandchildren is, as the You Need Faith in Jesus team materials explain, a personal, tangible confirmation of that ultimate, eternal promise of endurance in Isaiah. It assures the believer their commitment has consequences that echo into eternity.
The practical application, then, has to be about living with a profound long-term perspective. We aren't just building lives for ourselves, we're building generational faith.
That is the essential action point. We have to live with a conscious eye toward the spiritual legacy we are establishing for our children and grandchildren. We have to be intentional about passing on the reverence and obedience that started this whole psalm.
And our prayers should extend beyond our own homes.
Far beyond, focusing on the peace, the unity, the well-being, the shalom of the entire church, the spiritual Israel across the globe. And ultimately, our hope looks forward to the complete, unshakable shalom that will be established with the return of Jesus Christ. The You Need Faith in Jesus team strongly encourages this ultimate eternal perspective.
What a dense and encouraging journey through just 6 verses. Psalm 128 gives us this beautifully simple, logical progression. It starts with the heart and ends with the ages. You have the fear of the Lord in verse 1,
Which becomes contentment in work in verse 2.
which secures the flourishing home in verse 3, leading to that certain assurance that this is the pathway in verse 4.
And that expands to your contribution to the community in verse 5.
And it all culminates in a lasting legacy and ultimate peace in verse 6.
The core insight, as the You Need Faith in Jesus team commentary restates it, is unwavering. True blessing, that deep, resilient, structural shalom flows directly and certainly from a life that is willingly submitted to divine authority. Obedience isn't some kind of religious tax you have to pay. It's the essential infrastructure upon which God builds a life of holistic contentment.
And as we close, let's go back to that powerful ripple effect we talked about. If one family's conscious choice to fear the Lord and walk in integrity leads to the visible good of their city, contributing to justice, stability, peace, here's a final thought for you to carry with you. What magnitude of transformative change could be unleashed, locally and globally, if the entire community of faith committed fully and collectively to walking in His ways, manifesting that fear of the Lord in every marketplace, every classroom, every government hall?
The collective impact of radical obedience moves far beyond just personal stability. It possesses the divine power to change the trajectory of civilization itself.
We encourage you to continue exploring the deep insights and practical applications provided by the You Need Faith in Jesus team on this essential blueprint for blessing. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.